Yo!
Yo Munir, what's the good word?
It looks like you have just come in from the call. Oh my God. I'm waiting to see steam rising from your mouth.
Oh boy, just got in from shoveling.
Okay then. That's it's been stormy on the East Coast. I was traveling yesterday. I live in a place that takes a long time to get to. When I moved here, it was a known issue. 25 hours to get home, and some of it was due to the delays in JFK because of a lot of snow, and then I had a connecting flight that was delayed because of the snow, and anyway, but here I am, and here you are.
You're in the same. That's not AI, baby. That's live and in the flesh.
Yeah.
This is, it's a happy occasion when I get to bring out the Marc Ecko denim leather gloves that you, Munir Haddad, gifted me, Robert Haddad, back in 2001.
Those are classics. What are you doing wearing these?
And look, they're still you want to talk about like high quality material? Like I do some serious shoveling in these bad boys.
How about that?
Yo, shout out Marc Ecko, 1972. Was he 1972? Is that everything that he has is like
he and his twin
Anyway,
sister.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
He and his twin sister Marcy were born in 1972.
Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this glimpse. This is pre-complex media.
Right.
Pre-complex media. This is Echo.com Plex.
Yes.
Denim.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Well, Rob, one of the things I learned a lot of lessons working with Marc Ecko and his business partner and his sister and a number of other people who you have met along the way as well. It was a lesson. One of the things, Marc was full of excellent ideas, and he surrounded himself with people that would help him execute his ideas. And he was playing around with the concept of .com, and it was emerging, and e-commerce was emerging, and the denim was a license that he had with somebody that would create accessories. So he had the master brand, and he would influence the designs, but the production would be done by licensing partners. That's how most of the fashion industry works. Eyeglasses are the same. You might know this already, but a lot of the apparel industry, you'll have a master brand, and then you have these manufacturing partners that produce your brand's perfume, or they'll produce suits or outerwear or backpacks and watches, and these are all different licensing partners usually that then you decide a deal with them to produce and then distribute. And those gloves are an example of that. And complex, though, was this idea that was emerging. Again, Marc being a forward-thinking individual, a cultural curator, and he was playing with the idea of what is a collection of organizations that could be beyond apparel. One of the reasons I started working with Marc was I had sat down with him and had a conversation, and he said to me, I sell 6 million t-shirts, and I have hang tags on these 6 million t-shirts that are these postcards, and they aren't self-addressed, self-stamped. They were postcards without a stamp, with clothing targeted to young men. And he had hundreds of thousands of these postcards in his office. And it was incredible to me, like that, the value of that these young men, 18 to 25, were taking the time to put a stamp, find a stamp, write a postcard, and send it back to Marc because they wanted a relationship. And so he had this idea, and he said of his 6 million t-shirts, clothing is just one media. And when he said that, he had me, because I'm like, that is a transformational idea, and one that I ascribe to. I loved fashion. I loved big brands like Nike. I love that you're wearing a hat with our logo. And
Yo Munir.
the
Sorry.
idea of clothing being a medium was something that resonated really well with me. And so this idea of a complex was this complex of different businesses and different ideas that he might put together. And later on, that did become a .com website, and it did become an e-commerce opportunity, and it did become, the first thing I told Mark was, if you have these postcards, what are you doing with them? And he said, what do you mean? Like, we don't know what to do with them. I said, well, find somebody to key them into a database. At that time, it was like, well, where do we get a database? And so we had to go find a database partner. And, this is pre CRM systems, like we were doing this stuff on the fly. And he actually went out and found an individual that had built this type of business, catalog business somewhere else, which
No
was good. I
way.
mean, we would have figured it out, but he got there a lot faster by just finding and hiring somebody that knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden you have 100,000 customers that have raised their hand saying, please market to me. So a great way to start an e-commerce business, as well as then being a seed for a magazine, Complex Magazine. And then that, begat him also hiring a few people that had experience creating publications. There was a gentleman named Ket, who was a graffiti artist who had put together some publication ideas, and he was the first individual. And then he brought in Ben White and Tina M. And then he brought in the team that took it to the next level. And
Wow.
but those were the seeds of the idea that became complex and then became the big business that is still alive today.
Hey, bro, you are like the Forrest Gump of marketing.
I don't know what to do with that, but okay, I'll take it as a good thing.
It's wild to me. Like Leo Burnett, and at the time, at Burnett, you got to work with Reebok
I
and you
did.
got to work with Nintendo.
I did.
And then you went to work with EA, actually Psygnosis,
Sure.
Sony PlayStation games, and
Sure.
then EA, if I'm
Yeah.
remembering correctly,
Yes.
right? And then M2 Card, which is still, I mean, Cash App and Apple Pay, and but the idea of giving the ability for teens to be consumers in a way they had never been before, which
Yeah.
they are now
Sure.
through wearables.
Yeah.
But that was 25 years ago.
Yes, it was. I have, this is proving that first mover does not always equal success. But yes, I've been attached and close to things that made a lot of sense.
I
One of
think
the
this.
other great things I had at
Tell
Leo
me.
Burnett was the ability to work with a guy named Rishad Tobaccowalla. And, Rashad is a preeminent figure in the advertising industry. And he was, at that time, this is the 90s, he was playing with what became online advertising. We were making CD-ROMs. And, Leo Burnett hired, or not hired, they bought a small agency out of Iowa. There were these two brothers who had been making websites, and so these guys were the first like interactive group. And because I had been working on Nintendo, and at the time I had an ex girlfriend of mine was working on an account that made a CD-ROM, and so she had a relationship with Rashad, working relationship that allowed me to have some exposure to him and talk about what could be. And Nintendo at the time actually was really hesitant and wasn't pushing uh, us, at least as the ad agency, to be more online yet. Even though my desire was there to like push CD-ROMs and things like that. They had a website and they had a group that was separate and internal that was working on their website. They even had a publication at the time, Nintendo Power. And we sat alongside that, and I tried to push for things that could be done with interactivity there. But they had their plan, and they knew what they were doing, and it was great to have those conversations in the early days of what became internet advertising.
No. I mean, look, the future does not fit into the containers of the past. Is his Substack? So I am very. He's got a great book about the future of work.
Yep.
I met Rishad actually at IAB ALM almost a year ago, January 2025. I gave him a shout out. I said, love what you're doing on LinkedIn. You might know my brother and his friend Hugh Scallon. And he's like, I know the name Hugh. I was like, don't worry, you will know Munir regardless. Like it was a funny conversation, but I knew that Leo Burnett alumni group is vast.
It is. It's fast. Leo Burnett at that time was the largest ad agency under one roof. There were like 2,000 people working in Chicago in one building, and
Wow.
um, you know, and now they took the name off the door, which is a story for a whole episode.
Wow. That is a story. Wow. I didn't realize that. Iconic
Well, it's
place.
called
Iconic place.
Leo now, but it's not
Right.
Leo Burnett.
I'm going to pause. I'm going to pass out if I keep this hat on. So just give me 1 second here.
Oh yeah, makeup. Bring the bring. Where's production?
Wow. Oh my God. But what I mean, these are we'll make a more formal announcement. These will be coming soon.
Oh, now it looks like a
Really
beret. We're gonna have to make a beret.
love what love what you did with these. Love what you did with these. Oh man. Anyway, what'd you do this week? You told me about your travels. That sounds harrowing. Anything else worth mentioning?
The travels were expected. I can't complain. I know where I end up, and I knew when I moved here that it was going to take time to get on and off from where I am, and that's fine. I was in Northern California for the holidays. It was lovely. I was actually, the family went and visited other family, and we rented a house together in wine country. And it's an area that we know well. Some of us used to live up there. And so nice to be together, nice to experience some time away from our usual day-to-day lives. And it rained a lot out there, which is probably where this snow came from. So we had a lot of quality time together. We got to play some games. We went bowling. We cooked some great meals together. We went out a couple times, and
My
the
God.
the cousins got together. They love each other, and that's always, as a parent, it's very fulfilling. And as a family that spent a lot of time with our cousins, it's very fulfilling to watch as our kids are finding their relationships together without us, which is even better. It's like, our
So
work here is done.
that I love that. The reward of seeing extended family embrace each other is like 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 few things.
Indeed.
Like few things. I love
Indeed.
that. That's
And
great.
it's a theme that we have talked about tangentially, like the idea of community and the importance of developing relationships and seeing people in person, and having that sense of community is something that I think is highly valuable. And it starts at home, and it then extends out into the broader community.
You know what? Speaking of themes that we've been seeing a lot of, or we've been talking a lot about, there are a couple of themes that I wanted to talk about today that I continue to see a lot of. And the experiential piece is one that's really interesting because as my children are getting to entry level career opportunity age, there's a lot of discussion about how to get early career jobs. And there was a report that Stanford just did recently about software engineers aged 22 to 25, saying that there's a reduction in hiring software engineers by 20% of age 22 to 25. That I thought was quite remarkable. And I've been seeing consistently in my feed the changing value of a 4-year education and what it means to hiring. And I'd love your opinion on that. It was written up in a Reuters article, and I saw it. Google Discover continues to feed
And when was
me
that decline
this.
again? Tell me that decline.
So yeah, Stanford report on software engineers. Los Angeles Times published it.
Okay.
December 19th, 2025.
Yeah, but
Now this is saying here
from what
here's the
period to
headline.
what period was the decline?
No, I understand
Oh,
I
okay.
understand what you're asking. They graduated from Stanford due to AI. They can't find a job. That's the
That's the
that's the headline.
headline. Right.
That's the headline.
Right.
Yeah.
Correlation does not equal causality, Rob.
So here we go. I'm going to read a summary of what's happening here. Stanford report: 54% of software development positions, or an estimated 920,000 jobs, could be lost as a result of automation over the next 10 years. Graduates with jobs dropped from 78% in 2022 to 71% in 2023, then 59.2% in 2024, a proportional drop of nearly 25% over 2 years. That's a University of Wisconsin report. Getting back to the Stanford, this is, if I can launch one of these. Stanford computer science graduates are struggling to find entry-level jobs with the most prominent tech companies. Stanford bioengineering professor Jan Lippard told the LA Times, I think that's crazy. The AI can now code better. I'm still looking to answer the question that you posed to me, and I'm just rambling here, reading through. Yeah.
Let's pause here.
All right. Yep.
I'm going to stop recording even. And we're back. Did you find anything?
All right. I've been doing some research.
Okay.
Okay. So the report analyzed ADP data from January 2021 through July 2025 with a focus of late 2022 through mid 2025.
Okay.
All right. So it wanted to establish a pre-AI baseline. So it says, and saw that in occupations most exposed to generative AI, employment declined noticeably for young workers compared to older cohorts starting in late 2022. Specifically, around a 6% decline in young employment in highly exposed jobs from late 2022 to July 2025 in some analyses. Other summaries observe around a 13% relative drop for ages 22 to 25 in the most AI exposed occupations over the same time period. And then employment gap for young workers in high AI exposed jobs had grown steadily since late 2022 with significantly weaker hiring. By July 2025, the report documents this pattern holding across occupations and after controlling for other factors. What am I even reading to you? What are people telling me? See, this is why you. So this has been. I have to admit, I have a problem. I have a problem. To me, there's almost not enough information to read and present a story when I haven't read like every page of the report. It's a 57-page report. And so now I realize, and one of the reasons why I'm going to expose a little bit of myself, not physically, but from a,
Wow, we were going to have an interesting episode.
I, I, I am getting hot though. Like um, it's a, the reason why I've never done a podcast before is because I never felt like I was an expert. And here we are talking about all kinds of different things. I'm bringing to light a study that Stanford did. I didn't read all 57 pages, Munir. I have to admit, I'm only summarizing what some of these paywalled articles are saying. And you're asking me questions, and I can't even support the argument because I haven't read every page of it.
I find that we, societally, you are not alone, um, are victims of clickbait headlines, and it creates a compounding problem where we get agitated immediately because the headlines are designed to agitate us and to either cause outrage or a click or curiosity or what have you. And we've learned a lot. Daniel Kahneman, a genius, and maybe also somebody who we're going to learn to hate as we continue in our world
Thought he was going to be a
because,
guest.
oh, he's passed away. But um, the genius of him and Tversky and their capacity to understand human thinking and then give us a roadmap to basically unlock human emotion by delivering content to us in a way that causes a reaction, behavioral economics or behavioral psychology, whichever term you want to use. Um, there are things that we see in the world around us, and our media has changed from or evolved. I mean, it's more immediate. There was all. I know I have these tangents. So, like there was always yellow journalism. Do you remember that term?
Yes.
So arguably, the Hearst family made a lot of money creating outrage in their publication and their writing, and they became quite wealthy that way. Uh, but it was referred to by some as yellow journalism. People didn't like it universally. It delivered results for Hearst's interests as well as created arguably the Spanish American War, depending on who you listen to or read. Remember the Maine? So, there are these things that have happened in our society in the past. And now we can do that much more easily, much faster, at broader distribution, and we hammer it. And so you get these headline articles about AI, and is it actually going to have an impact on jobs? 100% it will. Has it created the correlation that you are talking about? 100% there's a correlation. Is it the causation? I don't know. You have admitted that you don't know. And I don't know if the 57 pages of the Stanford report will tell us that either. And just because it came from Stanford doesn't mean that they have done the work to make the causation versus a correlation report either. And it might be that the authors are saying there's a correlation, not a causation. But the
Mm-hmm.
headline says it's causation, which means that AI was directly responsible for this loss of jobs by 20%. It is possible that AI had a piece of the problem. It is also possible that we had an overheated economy coming out of the pandemic. People have forgotten already, but there was such a retraction in our entire economy and work that everything cratered for like a year. And then once we felt like, oh, we've got a solution, or at least it's not going to be forever, and we had a vaccine, all of a sudden you had this massive rehiring. And there had been, right before the pandemic, this arms race of hiring people. There was like, there's still only like 3% unemployment for the participating workforce, which people forget, because not included in our employment numbers are people who opt out, meaning they've failed to find a job and they just stop looking. And when you stop looking, you're not included in the unemployment numbers anymore because you're not in the workforce. So you have you have this information and you have these things that are impacting it. And it is entirely possible. It's entirely possible that the advent of AI has had a highly negative impact on entry level coding jobs. It's possible. It is also possible that there was an overhiring coming right out of the pandemic, and then there was market pressures with a new administration, and then there were tariffs, and then there were overheated expectations in terms of financial delivery because the massive upswing that people had seen coming out of the pandemic was over and they still wanted to deliver like 20% returns year over year. It's a lot harder to do that if you're not coming from zero. So I don't know.
Right. Now
And
we
you
both
don't
don't know.
know, and I don't know that they know either.
Oh boy, I
How's
love
that?
you.
I love you too.
Yeah, yeah. Here's something that'll always be true. I can always read more.
You can all every and in this day and age, you're gonna have more and more to read because we can create more rapidly and quickly. I was curious about I had this hypothesis about flaws. I think we've talked about this before, like flaws in a Persian rug.
Mm,
No,
mm,
famously in these, Persian rugs were a flaw in the design with the argument that it was so you didn't offend God because you didn't want to be too perfect. And so they would by design put in some flaw in the pattern to not offend God. And I don't again, I can't remember, but I was trying to figure out whether that was real or whether that was just something that somebody told me once. So I was trying to figure out like what the story was there. But the reason I was thinking about it, Rob, was in an
mm.
age of AI and also with like Uncanny Valley, do we want to celebrate our imperfections? And is the thing that's amazing about human writing or music? I also had read an article because I read a lot of crazy stuff and I start to like try to piece these things together. Like music, if your drum track is too perfect, I read this thing that like the thing that like was swing in jazz was like there were like microscopic imperfections in the rhythm of a human drummer. Like not seconds, microseconds off. But that was what the swing was. And so then I was like loading this stuff into an earlier version of one of the AI engines. And then it came back with like Wabi Sabi from Japan. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I remember Wabi Sabi. The idea of imperfection being beauty. And, then it becomes that it's right up your alley because then it's like now it's
Well, we have a
philosophy.
beautiful podcast if that's the case.
But it's these are the things, right? These are the things. And I was able to generate a 20-page report that I didn't even read.
This gets back to my Google Docs, which I've referenced before, in taking all of my notes. Do you think I have gone back within? I have. To be fair, I have gone back, especially for work. Gone back. I do go back and check my Google Notes docs. But what percent of the docs do you think I check? 10%?
Bet Google could tell you.
That would be a nice wrapped.
Or not, because then you'd be like, why am I paying for this?
Am I paying for those storage that you want me to have? Suddenly I have 30,000 unread emails and I have to pay you storage to keep those unread emails. Don't look at my unread email account.
that this is exactly the whole the storage unit space. I mean, you're buying a storage unit to put stuff in because you don't want to throw it out. But then you realize, like a year later, you've never been to the storage unit, and then you have this stuff.
Well, buddy, I assure you that would be the case whether it's valuable or meaningful for you or not. And
Maybe
it would be a
there's
really
a quote.
interesting.
There's a quote that, again, right up your alley. I think it's a Zen quote. I might be wrong, but the idea of you own your stuff and then your stuff owns you.
Mm, is it a George Carlin quote?
It might be. Nah, because
your your stuff is
that's
other people's shit.
yeah. Well, that's a different riff on the same idea.
Right. Well, there was a really interesting article about immigrants' relationship to their things, and we have a father who was both a refugee and an immigrant, who had a very personal relationship with a lot of his stuff
Yeah.
that we didn't share that same relationship
Right.
with to those things, which um, hurt his feelings
Sometimes.
sometimes. Yeah,
Sometimes. Yeah.
it's it was a really interesting, and he would always say, "All I need is one bag."
Mhm.
And while I believe that to be true, he also had a deep personal connection to the things in his life and never really got the time to talk through a lot of it. There were always stories behind the things that he had, which I enjoyed.
Yeah.
So surely the physical embodied these memories and these stories of his life that allowed him to live the life that he did. He lived until he was 85, almost 86. And I think a lot of that was because of his ability to connect with people, things, stories that gave him life.
For sure. I think the human connection point of our father was what kept him going.
Yeah.
Um, he loved people. He loved being productive, a productive member of society. He was constantly curious. And so he was always learning, and he was always curious about other people's feelings. And he had a great, dare I use the word, diverse group of friends from all walks of life, from all sorts of backgrounds. And he enjoyed all of them. I don't know if you remember, I walked into his last apartment was in senior housing home, and one of his best friends was a gentleman who was a former military person who happened to be of Puerto Rican descent, and the two of them were like fast friends. And all these people came and showed up as well to his memorial service, and from all sorts of backgrounds and walks of life, and again, didn't matter. He was a lover of people, and people loved him, and I think that is important for us as humans and does keep us going. Reduces stress.
It, it ties into the conversations that we're always having: community, connection, the AI apocalypse. All of these things are interconnected.
They are
And so
100%.
that that puts more emphasis on us to be interconnected.
Absolutely. And some of our best episodes were when we had other people here with us as well,
We
broadening
keep
those
talking about it.
connections. Well, it's the end of the year. It's hard to get people.
Oh boy, you're telling me. Yeah, it's hard to get me.
But it's it reminds me of something that you were talking to me about a little earlier about one of the ways we connect with people is gift giving. And one of the ways that we express our gratitude to others and build trust and relationship and authenticity is the process of giving gifts. And I would love to know from you um, how you've been thinking about gift giving in this season at the end of the year, as we reflect, as well as just a couple of past holidays which are built around the idea of giving gifts to each other.
Yeah. Whew. I tell you what, as somebody who puts a lot of practice into his relationships, recently I've been quite bad about gift giving. And and I've been thinking about it a lot, to be honest. To me, gift giving requires thought and action. And usually I'm not good at both of those at the same time. I can do one or the other, but both tends to be really hard. And I think because I spend so much effort on my day to day between work and cooking and housekeeping, as it were, or house managing, adding in the layer of gift giving is a lot. And so I was able to accomplish it within my family for Christmas the last couple of years, but was really bad at it for anybody outside of that. Now, historically, when I've had customers to share gifts with, I try and do something in person through a lunch, breakfast, or dinner or event, depending on what sort of client they are. Um, it's a little bit complicated with actually sending them a gift because I'm not sure to what degree they're allowed to accept gifts, and then you have to ask them first. And so there's some gray area with some of the customers as it pertains to gift giving, which is why I always prefer to try and do a meal when I can, which has been really successful in the past. And when it comes to extended family, even the cards, and sending a holiday card requires a significant amount of mental load. That conversation about the shared mental load within families and relationships, between partners. Gifts and cards fall into that mental load vertical that I really struggle with. Um, so, which is a long way for me to apologize for not sending you and your family a gift over the last couple of years.
Ha 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 ha. Oh, we've gotten into the psychology portion of our show.
um, but yeah, it is something, especially when it's time bound. It's like, okay, this is the period of time that we give gifts,
Right,
which adds a layer of pressure and lacks spontaneity
right.
because then it borders on performative,
Hmm.
which is something that I struggle with because it's like, okay, this is the season to do this thing that you're supposed to do,
Right,
but everybody agrees that this is the time that we're going to do it.
right.
So it's like, anyway, who knows? I probably just think too much. Matt Brown, another shout out, Matt Brown. He'd always tell me, dude, you're thinking too much.
You do think too much. In fact, earlier in this episode, we talked about the fact that you felt like you couldn't speak about certain things because you were not necessarily an expert. And part of the part of that is you freeze then before being able to share and move forward and continue and express yourself and then gain knowledge by having a hypothesis. You'll never be able to read everything.
And oh, by the way, you're going to be wrong whether or not you express yourself now or later.
I mean, one of the greatest things in our communication world is the comments. So, the opportunity to have somebody correct you or disagree is a valuable thing. It's a gift. It's a
A
gift.
gift. We did it.
Look how we did that.
Shut it down. How about you?
Um, I have had a lot of gift giving this year. Maybe not all at the time of gift giving. Yeah, no, like,
That's a gift.
people have provided gifts, and receiving gifts is also something you need to learn how to do.
Absolutely.
When people offer you things or accepting of help, I mean, that's a learned behavior and something important for us to accept. We talked about the artist's way a few times, and some of the artist's way is about the fact that you should be accepting of, if somebody wants to give you something, accept it. That's
Yeah,
the
that part
the
of
gift.
gratitude actually is learning how to accept other people's gratitude.
Absolutely. 100%. I have been terrible about this in my life. So I'm a work in progress. But it helps to know. And so here, we continue to work on things. But the idea of thinking about what to give others and how to give meaningfully, and the thought that goes into gifts. I am very lucky to have a business partner who, around the holidays, has one, is incredibly creative, and two, has great sense of people. And so, for the team, she has the capacity to think about a gift that can be personalized but can be common across. And so this year, we had a personalized version of the Guess Who game, and we
Oh,
personalized it with our employees,
wow.
and
Wow.
so everybody got a game that was about the company, with people from the company, and had elements of them. And so that was universally loved by the team. And then along with that, we had some other games that we gave them that were, we thought about who they were and what they might like. And also gave them a nice blanket so they could have a cozy game night around this time of year. And
Amazing.
another year we gave record players out to the team with a personalized album, you know, chosen for, their musical tastes. So,
Oh, okay,
we
not like a mixtape that was
not
pressed.
like a mixed. We did think about that, but then the pressing cost relative to the number of employees we had wasn't going to be worth the expense for the size of the company that we were. But we picked out an album. So the record player had a personalized then mat, like the mat that goes under.
Yeah.
That was branded. So we had that magenta and kiosk branded, and then we gave people an album that was from an artist that they would like or appreciate,
Wow.
as an example.
Each employee got
Yes.
their own individual album.
Yes.
So it wasn't like 50 Bon Iver Sable Fable albums.
No, because not all of our employees are Rob Haddad.
Wow. Wow. That's impressive.
It is. And it was, and it, that level of what you talked about, that level of thought is what makes it special. So there's a creativity around the overarching idea, and then a personalization aspect that we try to build into all of the things that we provide, not just to our team members, but to clients as well, when we can give gifts to clients. And with the advent of work from home, it became exceedingly harder to get people gifts as well because you didn't know where to send them. So a lot of that went digital, and it's a different gig. So we started to do much more in terms of choose a charity that relates to you, and we're going to contribute on your behalf to the charity. Um, Not because we don't want to give gifts to people, but we felt that societally we've kind of shifted a little bit in what we value, and we also felt like we couldn't send people stuff because we didn't know where they
Yeah,
were, and it becomes odd. Like, hey, could I have your home address? And
right.
that's a line that yeah, I think is difficult in a business setting. You don't quite know when you can cross it or if you should.
That's
And do
it's super interesting.
and even do I want
I
that?
actually
Do I
live in
want that
Portugal.
information?
Yeah. Wow. Super interesting. Well, Munir,
Well, Rob,
last one at 25.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year. And hopefully, oh, we could do one of
I,
these.
I thought we'd moved on from the pandemic, but yes, we could certainly do
This
masks if you would like.
gifts, gifts, gifts for 2026, maybe?
100%. You know it.
Wow. Wow.
We will have a store in 2026.
You heard it here first, folks.
Happy
Love
New
it.
Year.
I love you. Happy New Year.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.